So I want to talk about ways that victims of abuse can get out of their situation. However, this is an extremely tricky topic because there are victims of abuse in different situations in different countries with different supports available to them. Oh wait, maybe I should wait just in case YouTube does that thing where it cuts off the front of the video. It should be all right. I feel like it's fine. Okay. So there are, in my opinion, when I am dealing with victims of abuse, there's like four general types of victims of abuse for the purposes of like coming up with an escape plan. So one is minor children. The second is you're a childless adult. The third is you are a parent with your minor children. And the fourth is you're like an older person who's been in an abusive dynamic that has also included financial abuse. So you don't have assets, access to the money, stuff like that. So it's different depending on where you are, what your situation is. One of the most One of the saddest things is that there are the most resources available to the people who are least able to understand that they are available and how to access those resources, and that is children. So, when you're a minor child, you actually have access to the most amount of resources possible, but it requires that children take action in ways that they don't have the information to do that. So for example, like when I've talked to children before and they've made like a call, let's say, to their child protective services agencies, they then get intimidated and back down from making the report. And then therefore the case gets closed out. And then they're sitting there going, well, why isn't anyone helping me? Because like they didn't understand. Um, and so it's hard to explain to children like the steps that you these are the steps that you need to take to accomplish the goal that you want to accomplish. It will likely mean that you are removed from the home. And to be quite honest, that is itself a gamble. So, depending on the level of severity of abuse, it might make sense for the child to stay in the home, but attempt to take steps to position themselves to get out, like when they turn 18. So it's hard. So, for example, when I was a kid, I started working at 13 and I basically just handed over my paychecks to my father. Were they like giant paychecks? No, but I would just give him the money. And then if I wanted to go on a like a field trip with my friends or something like that, I would ask him for this money I'd already made. Um and then I would be able to go participate in the things that all of my friends were doing. This is how I paid for like going to dances. This is how I paid for field trips. Now, I didn't dip into that as much as possible. So I was going to school without getting food. Basically, we didn't um uh we didn't have a lot to eat. So at school, like, the friends knew, and so my brother and I, we would always get, like, the leftovers. The kids would go, "Oh, here, you can have my XYZ." So, essentially, I was fed, by other kids at school until, there were some years that we had free lunch, but obviously, like, you're a kid, you're not really in charge of that, so you don't know what's going on. So I basically started working. I gave my paychecks to my dad. That did mitigate some of the abuse. There's something about getting money that made that toned some of it down. It didn't prevent it, and it certainly didn't prevent him from trying to kill me like one time when I was 16. So I ended up going into foster care and then getting kicked out of foster care. And so one of the things that they try to do with a child is they try to put them in a kinship placement. Um, So after I got kicked out of foster care, I tried living with my mom and quickly discovered why my father did not think that was a good idea. And then after I left living with my mom, I ended up living with an aunt, and I didn't realize this, but she only agreed to have me live there so that she could have a nanny and someone who would clean the house. So I thought, "Oh, I'm living with family, someone who loves me." And that's not how that went. So when I was at the aunt's house, I had also gotten a job at like a local barbecue place. So whenever I'm talking to kids and I'm saying like, okay, when you're looking at escaping from your situation, what can you do in the situation? It's either going to be something like make reports to people, and then you have to go through that reporting process, and you may or may not be removed from the home. You just may have like supervision over your parent. It's summer brain. Glad to make it in the day. Hey, Livy. Basically, I'm just going over ways to get out of abuse dynamics, and I'm starting with. So there were 4 groups that I was going to talk about. The first group is minor children. The second is uh, let's see, what is it? Childless adults. The third is parents who have minor children, and then the fourth is like your older victims of abuse who don't have any assets. Um, so I'm talking about children right now. Um, yeah, yeah. I don't know if it'll be helpful, but we'll try. So one thing that I didn't realize is that when you are a child victim of abuse, there are some people that are just so happy to like try and help children. But there are some people who look on it as an opportunity. And so the people I expected to want to help me were not necessarily the ones who wanted to help me. They saw it as an opportunity. Like, so my aunt, basically trying to get free nannying and cleaning out of me, versus providing like a safe home for me to be in while I graduated high school. Um, so when I recommend to children is like you're either going to do the reporting route, and then you want to make sure you know exactly who your social worker is or your child protective services worker is, and be in contact with that person. Um, get their name, get their phone number, get their email address, and then that way you can make sure that there's a person who cares, or who is responsible for you and your situation, and that it's not just getting mediated by the adults. Um, Kids can get intimidated by like these processes, and I completely understand why. If you end up deciding to not go that route, then, like I said, I highly recommend getting a job and also getting A's. Making sure your grades are good. I understood that one of the routes that I would be able to get out of my abuse dynamic was making sure that my grades were good so that I could go to college, like, on a scholarship. Not just because it's not just merit-based scholarships, it's also you get the need-based. Um, and so I was already planning for that. Like, I already knew, like, this is my way out. I had a cousin who she basically went into prostitution, and, with that comes yeah, thanks. She went into prostitution. That is the fastest way to get money, if you're in that situation, and it is a bad option, and I never, 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 never recommend it because you're in danger. You're putting yourself in danger, and then also, it ends up destroying you. So she ended up being on drugs. She was in a very hard situation. So knowing that I have had members of my family that have gone into prostitution, I was like, okay, I need to be on my grades. I need to be doing as best as I can in school. I need to be participating in activities. And again, I was working since I was 13, and I was giving my money to my father. So it wasn't like I was keeping money and putting it aside. Some people can do that. But what I've found is that abusive parents will take that money. So even if you get like your own bank account, it's not worth it. Just give it to them. And then try and keep what you can for your like direct needs. Yeah, so doing your best in school. The transportation issue people run into, especially minor children run into a lot. I got a bike. I'm gonna say when I was 16. So I rode my bike everywhere. I lived in Miami and I rode my bike to school. I rode my bike to my job. I rode my bike home. I had I had legs of steel. But there's also the bus. And so I found that when I'm talking to young people about their situation, there's a lot of passivity, and sort of breaking through that so that they will take action on their own behalf. And I really thought about like education is a great way though. Good for you. Great choice. I'm heartbroken for your cousin. Yeah, she had to give up her baby who has special needs because of the drug use, and it's like, she like, you it's hard because she wasn't being a safe mom, otherwise the baby would be like that, but you know where that came from. Yeah. So, so breaking through to kids to get them to take action on their own behalf is often one of the hardest things. And so if they are not taking the child protective services route, if they're not taking the route of like, let me tell an adult, a safe adult, um, then the advice that I give them is usually, okay, you got to treat this like a POW situation. You lie to your parents, in the sense that you don't let them know what you are feeling on the inside. You don't let them know what you're planning. Making moves in silence essentially is the goal. And also, I found that abusive parents often want to, they like it when the kids make them look good. So you might be the scapegoat and then this doesn't work. But sometimes it does, where if you're doing well enough in school, they might be happy about that because they can brag on themselves for like a hot second. And I just let my dad, he would pat himself on the back and I'm like, oh, yeah, you're so great. Say what you need to say. Um, Anyway, so, once I graduated and got out of, high school, and then I went to college, for the first time, I was only responsible for me, which was, like, very nice. And so I worked also while I was in college, and I only got, like, 4 hours of sleep a night. That was tough, that was tough. So, basically, I ended up getting a job at a restaurant because you can get discounts on food, and then maybe there's, like, leftovers, and if the cook's like you, they'll, like, give you some food. So I worked at IHOP. I worked at IHOP, pretty much in every city that I've lived in. It was just an easy job to pick up. I could be personable with people, and you could make pretty solid tips, except for Sunday mornings. They are garbage tips. But, I was working overnight, so I would get tips. Um, and so I have often recommended to victims of abuse who, like, you're now a childless adult. That's gonna be your time to, like, if you gotta live in your car, or you're working multiple jobs, you're just like, "Okay, I gotta get through this period of time, and then I'll be okay." I knew I didn't have a safety net, and I was also my brother's safety net. So, um, there was a lot of hard work and not as much sleep as I would like. So when I'm recommending to hold on, I like Rhoda. When I'm recommending to people, oh yeah, okay. So if you are gonna work for someone, and you're also like trying to go to school or you have multiple jobs, what I would say is an overnight job, so that you can work your day job and your night job. Um, So like a call center, a 24/7 restaurant, what else? Oh, what else? There were more jobs and it just went out of my brain. I know some people like doing the delivery driving. I don't like that. I don't personally recommend that. My go-to, if I went to a place, like a new city, I would call a local temp agency, and I would get temp work. And they usually loved me because I was like a reliable temp person. And I wasn't necessarily making like the most money, but you can make relationships with people at the temp agency. And if you were a reliable worker, they would go, okay, yeah, I can put you in this, this other position. They would keep an eye out for you. So I wasn't trying to get a job per se. I was working at the temp agency. Yeah. Yeah. I was working at the temp agency and then they put me places, and the better they like you, the better the places they put you. Um yeah, I'm a big fan of the temp work. If you want to work on your own, the fastest way to start up your own quote unquote business, for women, it's going to be as a cleaner, and for men, it's going to be as a mover. Now, that said, women, I think, have a niche for moving. Men can do this as well, where and it requires obviously like a truck or renting a truck, where you advertise yourself as someone who can go pick up items that are being sold on like Facebook Marketplace, or back in the day it would have been Craigslist or wherever, that you're a pickup and delivery. Oh, I can pick up this item for you and bring it to you. People will pay, like 100 bucks if you'll just go pick up this thing and like bring it to me. And in fact, I've used a service like that before. I bought some bookshelves or something. So if you are like, oh, I want to try and have my own quick business that I start up, cleaning and Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist mover would be my suggestions. Like, that's going to be easy startup, and you can just go kind of advertise your services, because a lot of people, they're busy, and if they're going to pay for, people are acclimated to paying for deliveries for things like food. So if they're acclimated for that, if you already have a truck and they don't have to go out of their way to rent a truck, and you can just, maybe grab a friend or something like that and you move it, and bing, bam, boom, you're done. And you're not moving someone's whole house. It's a quick way to make money. Where I live, men can make money doing landscaping, especially tree removal. Okay, my area always has tree damage from storms. If you can lift a chainsaw, you've got work. Yes. I personally would not recommend that, only because the paralegal in me is like, I don't want to recommend something that someone might like injure themselves with. And I feel like if you've never had like used a chainsaw, now's maybe not the time to start. But it's that actually is a great suggestion. The landscaping also in particular. Um, yeah, it's easy to like pick up new work. So if you're a childless adult, you have no, 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 no. I just That's how I think, because of the legal that, so when you're a childless adult, you don't have as many people that are like going out of their way to help you like you do when you're a minor child, but you have a lot more freedom because you're not having to deal with like childcare, or another abusive parent who's impeding your ability to do something. So when you are the parent of a minor child or minor children, okay, this is where it can get really, really great in terms of available programs, available nonprofits. Also, people love to help, victims of abuse with children. They love to help people that are innocent. So also this works for kids too. But basically, people are more likely to go out of their way to help you, especially if you are a parent with young children. And so this is one reason why I recommend that people get to, you get to your local domestic violence shelter, get to your local child abuse prevention nonprofits. They also often have relationships with attorneys in the community who are willing to sit down with victims to give them advice, or they might do like a free clinic. Because that's a really key piece of trying to figure out like what you can do, is knowing like what your legal rights are, what your avenues are. You can get a divorce, and if you are like the stay-at-home parent, the working parent may, depending on your area and where you live, may be responsible for paying for your attorney, right? So a lot of the time, victims of abuse who are like stay-at-home parents or they are parents, they don't realize that they have a lot more leverage, they have a lot more options, um, than just sort of like, "Oh, I'm stuck in this house and I can't do anything and I'm trapped." Okay, so if you are a working person in this situation, one of the recommendations is to set up a secret bank account, not in the same bank that you bank at with the abuser. And when it's time, when you can, like if you get a raise or when it's the beginning of the year and you're re upping on health insurance, let's say, you basically tell the abuser, "Oh, I didn't get a raise. The amount of money for the health insurance increased this year." And then basically you just you direct deposit, whatever is reasonable into your secret bank account so you can start building up your own money that the abuser doesn't know about and can't touch. And so the beginning of the year is really good for that because you can basically explain away the differences in the paycheck, or you can, if you get a raise, um, you just put that raise to the secret bank account. That said, there's a ticking clock on that. If you file taxes together, um, and if the abuser is the one who handles the finances, which yeah, if you're to that point, you need to be talking to a domestic violence nonprofit. And also there's like a bunch available online with like checklists and things. Okay, so let's see. When I was the parent of my son and I was in the abuse dynamic, I was a stay-at-home mom during the day doing stay-at-home mom things, and then at night, I worked at a call center. So, basically, I didn't really get a lot of sleep. It's kinda like a repeat of, my college years where I wasn't getting a lot of sleep either. I was only able to sustain it for about 8 months, but I had 8 months of income while I was still watching our son during the day. So I wasn't having to pay extra for childcare. Now that said, I did get to a point after about 8 months where I was absolutely just smoked. I was so, 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 so tired. And, so it's not, like, super sustainable, but I worked overnight at a call center, and, I think then it was another couple years before I went and got, like a job, so I think he was 4, almost 5 at that point when I went back to working at a law firm. Okay, so one of the things I've noticed is that when you need help getting away from an abuser, if you're dealing with like interpersonal people, like your family, friends, stuff like that, it's weirdly not your immediate family or your immediate friends necessarily that are your best support. Sometimes it's like your secondary relatives or your secondary friends. Unless you have like a friend or relative that like thinks that, the abuser is a terrible person and has been telling you that, they often also kind of can believe what the abuser is saying about you is true. Whereas the second people are not in that distortion field from the abuser. And so a lot of and they're not close enough to be judging you either. So you can call I mean, I've recommended to people, like, track down your best friend from high school and say, "Oh my gosh," or, I'm stuck in the situation and I don't know what to do." The only problem with that is, though, that you cannot expose this person to danger from your abuser. So you got to make sure that you're leaving. You got to make sure that they don't know where you're going or how to get to this person. So when victims of abuse are in that like seesaw back and forth with the abuser because they feel guilty or they miss them or something like that, this is what burns people out on helping victims of abuse because it's very hard to help a victim of abuse who goes back to the abuser or who puts you and your own family and your own home and like car and stuff in danger. So, um, getting to, like, a secondary person, maybe an aunt well, not my aunt. It's l Getting to a secondary person, can be helpful. That said, you may end up with someone who's trying to take advantage of you, and I don't recommend staying in those situations. I personally would rather be I would rather be in a tent in the woods than dealing with that, because it never ends. It's like blackmail. They get you on one thing, they'll get you on more. "Thanks. I've got marketable skills, just not sure I trust myself to be able to follow through reliably because of said children and potential pitfalls or urgencies that come up." Okay. Yeah, the childcare. That's why I worked nights until basically I was able to put him in school. So I don't know how old your kids are and whether or not you have I might have a cousin local that could be cool. Ooh, yes. I mean, like, those honey, sweetie, those people that you haven't thought of in a long time, you'd be surprised. If you had a good relationship, they might be down to support you. Um, Also, I don't know where you're at, churches, they often have, like, Mother's Morning Out programs, certain jobs may have childcare on the facility. There's also I mean, depends on how comfortable you feel with it, but there bro, seriously? Okay. Um, so there's, like, neighborhood childcare places. Now, I tried that, and the lady did physically hurt my child, so that would did not end up being a good suggestion for me. But if I had been able to, okay, my guy. There was a point where I was able to trade childcare with another like kind of mom that I'd met through the Mother's Morning Out program, and so I would come over and watch her kids, and then sometimes she would. Okay, baby, we're like trying to focus. I'm sorry. So sometimes I would watch her children, and then she would sometimes be able to watch my son. Oh yeah, great ideas, thanks. he's he's been chilling all day, suddenly he wants all the attention. Baby. Okay. Yeah, so now when it comes to organizational support, I um okay, sweetie. When it comes to organizational supports, this is going to depend on where you live. Rural areas tend to have less support than cities, but cities tend to have a lot of people trying to get to those support and resources. So, you know, people optimally want a just a system that works, and quite frankly, blessings come through people. And I didn't know this. So after my son was born, I had to learn to be good with people. And it it did not come naturally to me, but because I knew that interacting with people was gonna be the best way for me to achieve what I wanted for our family, I was like, "Okay, like, how do I learn how to do this?" Now, speaking of that, when you have kids, people wanna help you. The better you are, I guess, if that makes sense. So, like, there's this, like, middle area where it's gotta be it's gotta look bad enough that you need help, but it can't be so bad that it looks like you're a terrible person. Um, and so, I've never okay, so even when I was in my alt goth adjacent alternative kind of living, I never got tattoos. I never did anything extreme with my physical appearance that was permanent. I didn't get like any piercings other than my ear. Because having grown up in foster care, I knew how important it was that appearance made in terms of having people either help you or not think badly of you. So like, networking as a stay-at-home mom actually ended up being really, really helpful. But that's because I was like working on my people skills and like presentation. When I was a kid, I used to dye all of my well, actually in young adult, I used to dye all of my clothes black. So everything would match, everything looked new, essentially. And I looked like I belonged wherever I went. That was something that was very important to me. And so I bought Target diapers because when you're hanging out with the moms at the play groups and stuff, you didn't want to seem okay, my guy. you didn't want to seem, I don't know how to put it. You didn't want to seem like low class, because if you were low class or if you came across low class, then they would like box you out. And so I was like, okay, I got to like navigate this like class issue. Because sometimes it's those people who can help you. Like, oh, I know a person, right? So you want them to think positively of you. So, like, when you're going in for the resources, like, you can't look too fancy, but when you're trying to network with like other stay-at-home parents or something, you can't look too busted, because then they're not going to want to be around you. People like when their help seems effective and helpful. Yes, yes. They want their help to be successful, invest in success, offer a leg up, not a money pit. Yep. Yes. One of the fastest ways to turn off people from helping you is to basically act like nothing is good enough and you don't appreciate anything, and you just feel like entitled, and also nothing will solve your problem. Like those, when I get people like that, I'm like, okay, well, all right. They want a springboard, not a balance beam. Yes. Dang, yeah, girl. Wait a minute, Libby, aren't you the one who had like copywriting experience? Because you, girl, I'm sure you could do that online. I mean, that's not my wheelhouse, but I feel like surely that's like super marketable. Although I guess everyone with the AI now. Okay. So yeah, yep, yeah. So like with my son, I would go to Target. I didn't normally shop at Target, but I went to Target specifically for the Target diapers, so we didn't stand out. I don't know if that's still the case. He's 14 now, so who knows. But I always made sure that his clothes were clean, his hair was washed, his nails were cut, because your hair and your nails are dead giveaways for, you know, how things are at home. Um, all right. Oh, as far as the alternative AI sort of ate the industry, but there are ways to pivot to strategy. Yeah, so if it's literally childcare, maybe you can trade with another mom like that you've made friends with. Honestly, that worked out really well. Okay, so oh, I recommend a clean car. This is gonna sound weird, but if you're ever like out and you're trying to make networking, play date, mom connections, having a clean car like is 9 tenths of the battle. It doesn't have even have to be a nice car per se, but as long as your car doesn't look like a dumpster, um, you'd be surprised at how impactful that is. Now, everything that I said about not looking alternative doesn't apply if you go to non-alternative places for support. There are a lot of progressive organizations that are happy to support somebody. So if I weren't like going a church route, going a Salvation Army route, if I wasn't going like a government program route, if I was gonna like find my local I don't know, like local atheist, or oh, what's the name of that church that's not a church? It's literally just Universalist, the Universalist. They're 100% down with like looking alternative. You can show up with your mohawk and your tattoos and whatever, 100%. There's also like I have a friend who actually was my domestic violence counselor. She went on to start her own massage therapy company. And so they pick people to support as part of their mission. And so even though it's not a part of like the work that they do, they've decided that they want to pick certain people to support. And so they pick someone. So it's like it's random, it's small, you never know. Hair and nails matter that much, huh? Car makes sense. I need a new windshield. Mine's 14 years old and held out desert and snow whole time. No, no, no. As long as it's clean. Like as long as it doesn't look like a dumpster fire. I used to drive a 2012 Mazda Protege. This was not a nice car per se, but it wasn't dirty. Like there's something about like a bunch of crap in the back that that turns people off. So if you have a busted car, but you're clearly like maintaining it, like that's what I mean. In terms of the nails, like if you cut your nail, like if you can't deal with like, every once in a while I'm like, let me grow my nails. But if you can't cut them, like I cut them down because better that you cut them off than they look like ratchet. So cool. She started a biz and helps folks. Yeah. Yeah. So like I've still been in touch with her. Gosh, it's been like 10 years now. So you'd be surprised. These smaller businesses, especially alternative businesses, progressive businesses, they often do want to help people. And so you might be able to like connect up with someone. Yeah. Yeah. So you could have an old car. I love me an old car. Again, mine was a 2012 Mazda Protege. That thing had 250,000 miles on it. I carted all the children in the neighborhood around, but I kept my car clean. So I grew up in an era and area where we had a lot of Black families around. And so I will say, if you have ever noticed Black families, even poor Black families, they're paying attention to how they're dressed. They're often paying attention to like how the house looks because if child support if CPS shows up and you have a dirty house, you're going to run into problems. If your kids aren't dressed like appropriately, oh no, I don't even know about appropriately, but if your kids don't look nice enough, you're going to end up with problems. So if you'll notice in the Black community, I noticed it because I was like, how are these babies wearing shoes? Like, I thought it was so weird, and I started paying attention to like Black parents with their babies, and I was like, oh, they're on top of their outfits. They're on top of making sure they wear little shoes. These babies are not wearing the same thing every day. They are. There was a lot of effort invested into looking a certain way so that they wouldn't attract problems. I can work on networking more just in general, being less self-isolating. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's really hard, especially if you're neurodivergent. Like I said, I worked on that actively. Kids always got to have nice clothes, no holes, clean, well pressed. It shows the children they are worthwhile too. Oh, yeah. That's such a great point. Yeah. So I wasn't able to do the whole, I was like, if he's in clean clothes and the hair looks clean and the busted car looks clean, like at least, we look helpable. We don't look like a hot mess. People want to help people they think will be successful. They don't want to throw their help away, essentially. Okay. So free activities or near free activities. I recommend this for every victim of abuse, all of them on the list, because you can get out, you can do something, and then also meet people that can potentially like connect you with other people. I could get to a car wash more often and keep a dust buster in there. Yeah, girl, don't stress yourself. There's clean and there's organized. If you just have it so it doesn't look like a dumpster, maybe it doesn't look nice and new, maybe it doesn't look clean, but you don't have like trash and Cheerios everywhere. I think is yeah, it's effort to start networking as a neurodivergent person, but for me, the trouble is starting breaking the ice. I can really thrive once that's done. Oh, my shortcut that I learned on that is to just compliment people. I compliment strangers and just be really enthusiastic about them and ask them questions. Once I changed how I thought about connecting with other people, it became a lot easier. So when I was networking with people from a place of I wanted them to notice me. I wanted them to like me. I was coming with like all of my childhood wounds. I was not successful. But when I was like, oh, I want people to like my kids. I want people or kids. I don't know why I said that. I want people to like my child. I want them to respond to him positively. I want that to be his experience in the world. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm remembering names. I'm remembering like life details. I am being curious, I'm being positive, complimentary. I like giving compliments, making others feel good. Um, so I had read on Reddit that people remember how you made them feel, or also that if you smiled at somebody, that if you smiled every time you saw them, then they would like subconsciously associate you with something positive. And so that's when I was like, okay, okay, I'm gonna like work on my face because I had that flat affect that you get with the odd teasy. And I was like, okay, I gotta be smiling. And if you ever watch like America's Next Top Model, Tyra Banks would be like, "Oh, you smile with your eyes." I'm like, I'll do my best, Tyra, even though she's terrible. But so being just like going out of my way to be positive, going out of my way to make compliments, going out of my way to remember details, to be excited when I saw people, and we'd bring like little gifts, and this isn't in a calculating way, but I had just grown up with, a terrible dad, and we hated people, and we didn't like people, and we weren't kind, and we were just very goth. And so I was like, well, this is not going to work for what I want to accomplish right now. So I changed my orientation. Now, it does take emotional labor to do that. And so I definitely like then I need to like be by myself for a little bit so I can come back to restoring like my energy, I guess. Um but yeah, so working on being approachable and approaching people, working on the soft skills, and implementing a relationship building with people because again, people are where the blessings are. It's someone who remembers you, who goes, "Oh yeah, I know a person who can XYZ," and they're excited about you, right? One thing I learned about wealthy people from having worked with attorneys is wealthy people, they love to recommend somebody. They love to feel like, "Oh no, I've got a guy." This like you need their number. They hand out numbers like it's candy. And so if you can be a person that is positioned in such a way that they want to recommend you for things, like that's half the battle right there. Yes, one of my kids is ADHD, and some family extensions have a hard time when he comes by. So I pass them literature on how to connect by autistic counselors. That helps if they are open. Yeah, my son is as well. So me and my son both, and his well, actually all of us. And so I didn't realize when I was a stay-at-home mom, I had basically acclimated him for it's like occupational therapy on accident because I wanted him to have positive experiences with people. And so I was actively teaching him, like, this is how you make relationships. We remember people's names. We remember details. We are excited and enthusiastic. And now he's doing sports and he's 14. And so he's back to flat affect again. And I'm like, buddy, you can't, unless you're making all the shots, you're like the star player, you still gotta be approachable so that adults want to help you. Like Dr. Phil was always offering resources. Rich folk like to contribute. Yeah, yeah. And they love a tax write-off, like legitimately. So again, this is why I'm often recommending nonprofits or connecting with people because you get to the right person in your area, someone who wants to believe in you, wants to support you, and that can take you from nothing to everything. Now I will say at one point I did something that you're not technically supposed to do. I'm not recommending this. I'm just saying I did this. I finally got to a point where I was auditing, like, can I sell my jewelry? Can I sell this? Can I sell that? Um, oh, good. Oh, good. Libby, yes. Yes. Yes, girl. Okay. You got this. Um, so what I discovered is most jewelry is not sellable. Like the gold, you'll get your one for one on the weight. At spot price or spot price minus something. But for the most part, most jewelry is not that sellable. I mean, at least that was my experience with it. So I cashed in my 401k. Now, I have since learned that rich people take loans against their 401k so they have access to liquidity. And then they pay it back within a specific period of time so they don't incur a penalty. I didn't know anything about that. I just cashed in my 401k and I ate the 30%. So I'm not recommending what I did, but because I wanted a chunk of money as quickly as possible so that I could, put deposits on an apartment and etc. That I was able to do that. So, I basically went through and I made a list of like, what is every single asset that I have full control over? And the 401k was the asset and it no longer exists. So I'm again not recommending it. That is technically very bad retirement advice. I am not recommending it. Apparently, like I said, the wealthy people they take loans against it. So it may be worth getting up with some kind of a financial person who can help you make like an analysis of like what your situation is, what your options are. Um, you know, apparently wealthy people have LLCs that they put things in the LLC's name and like the business has a bank and the business has the loans and they don't personally have the loans. And I'm tired already, so that's not for everybody, but maybe it's for somebody. So, okay. Yes, we talked about oh, okay. So, okay. I wanted to talk about the older spouse romantic relationship where you don't have any of the assets in your name. Maybe you've been like a girlfriend or boyfriend, you've lived with this person and or maybe you're gay. And so something happens to this person and then suddenly the family comes in and gets all the assets and you lose your home. So that is a situation where you're going to want to try and leverage in a regular human way. I don't mean like in a calculating way, but see who's in your network that possibly maybe has a room to rent. Maybe there's somebody at your church who has like an extra car. I got my car from a nonprofit that worked with the domestic violence shelter that I had gone to. And so there was like a referral network of organizations that referred to each other. A cool list of assets that can help me. Clever Girl Finance books and online helpers are cool, like Dave Ramsey without the blowhard. Yeah, yeah, that is heartbreaking. Yes. So being at an older stage of life and not having any assets or having them been taken away from you, especially since trying to go to court often requires an attorney, and that can be like it's different when it's a spouse because a spouse may be required to pay for your attorney if they're the breadwinner. But if you like weren't married, then you don't necessarily have that ability. Now, some attorneys will do cases on contingency if they think that there is money available. So a contingency fee case might be something like 30 to 40%, depending on the kind of case, depending on how much, they might have to invest in, going to trial or something. So, yeah, yeah, that's a different situation. But it still may be worth doing something. One thing I know the victims of abuse really struggle with is they don't know their legal rights. Again, this is why I'm so often like, go talk to an attorney. Now, obviously, a lot of this advice is very Western oriented and not non Western countries. When I'm talking to somebody from a non Western country, I'm trying to connect them with underground resources that aren't like you can go beep, boop, beep on the internet and find something. It might be talking to the librarian at your school or a nice seeming nurse, taking a gamble, trusting your intuition, seeing if there's somebody who knows something that can get you to like an underground resource. I'm learning that a lot of healing from abuse generally feels actually like taking responsibility for myself or better care of myself. In general, I can dig it adulting more effectively. Yeah, and also if you're on the autism spectrum, if you are what's the other one? ADHD, um stripping down as much as you can so that you can stay organized. And I know that's hard when you have children. But the more streamlined you can be in terms of the stuff you have to manage, the better able you're going to be to manage it. Um, And I had this conversation with my son. I'm like, if this is too much for you, like, and we can't manage the amount of stuff you have, we've got to get rid of some of the stuff. So, obviously the kids don't love that. They want to hold on to everything sometimes, but you sometimes you gotta put it in a box and label the box and put the box somewhere so that it's not taking up your mental space. So the less stuff you have to deal with, the better you're able to be efficient. Um, so yeah, let's see what I write. Oh, also, okay, an old phone slash Wi-Fi. If for some reason you want to be able to communicate with other people, but you want it separate from your phone, or like the abuser has access to your phone or something like that. If you can get a hold of an old phone, you can use the Wi-Fi to do quite a bit. It's not the same as having a phone with a plan. Now, that said, there are domestic violence programs that will give out like cheap phones. I've straight up bought burner phones for homeless people where they were like, "Oh, I just need a phone. I just need a phone to be able to stay in touch with people." Girl, we are decluttering today. This week has been a focus, little bit at a time. Streamlining is a habit, not a one off. I learn. Yeah, I always figure I'm like a little bit is better than no bit. You know what I mean? It doesn't. You don't have to like be perfect and do it all at once. Um, I I I don't like a to do list. As soon as I feel like I have to do something, I start to resent it. I don't want to do it. I think it's technically pathological demand avoidance, which is normal for autistic people. So I like a to done list. I like keeping track of stuff I did. Like, I did this. That's great. Gold star for me. Congratulations. So I'm not, I mean, I have a master list somewhere just for the documentation record keeping of it all, but I really love to highlight like, oh, look at this thing I did today. That makes me feel good. I get that dopamine. I find it to be more motivating. So I'm a strong believer in like paying attention to the stuff you did, celebrating that, and being positive about, if you did a little bit, you did a little bit. A little bit is better than no bit. So yeah, let's see. Oh yeah. So domestic violence programs often have like phones that they might be able to give people. They often have like employment programs. So the one that's near me, they have like it's not a CNA, it's like the assistant ones. So like they have a program to get people into doing a specific kind of job. That's also how I got my car. I got referred to another program. Um yes, yes, I have done list. Yes. Yep. And there's something so satisfying when you go back through and you're like, "Oh, look at all this stuff I did." It just, building that identity of being a person who is capable and can do the things and is adulting, like you said, Libby. Okay, so one of the biggest things about getting out of an abuse dynamic is going to be food. Food costs the most money, and also is one of the ways abusers often control people. So, hiding food if you need to, like if you're dealing with an abuser who eats all the food, or if you can cut expenses, I 100% recommend a food pantry. Food pantries, people don't like think of them. Um, I find the victims of abuse so often are like trying to do everything on their own. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like, go. I have people come to my church on a random Sunday after church and they're like, "Do you guys happen to have a pantry?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes, we do." Is it a big pantry? No. But like, we've got some peanut butter, we've got some Alfredo sauce, we've got beans, we got, macaroni. Every little bit is helpful. And so, I mean, hit up those random churches, hit up the food pantries. If you don't want to deal with the churches, like the food pantries, you the ones around me, like you drive through because they have so many people they're helping. And then you get like this like pack of food. Um, or some of them will have food that's like cheaper than what you would spend on it if you actually went out and like bought it individually. So that one, it does take being available for the distribution days. This is probably more of a thing for parents of minor children, versus somebody who's, like, actively working. But you can make a big dent in your budget if either buy cheaper food, figure out a way to be eat poor food, so that your beans and rice, your potatoes, make sure you got a multivitamin in there, your eggs, your lean protein, stuff like that. Um, like with my son, I basically explained to him, I'm like, listen, buddy, we're doing our best. This is not going to be all the food that you want to be eating, but this is the food that's good for us, our nutrition. We're going to appreciate it. I love that your channel isn't about vilifying, but can focus on building strengths and paths towards freedom on solutions rather than blame. I mean, if you want to blame the abuser, I'm not going to tell you no. Um, all right. So yeah. So the other thing too is if you can cut the food expenses, you often now have a chunk in your budget that you can squirrel away for you. So if the abuser doesn't know you picked up food from the food pantry, and that the food is free, and therefore that you like for $40, put into your secret bank account, or your secret place that you're hiding money. Although that's, be careful about that. You want to make sure it's somewhere they won't look. I'm a big fan. Like if you have to hide something from an abuser, usually the laundry room, um, the dirty laundry, like baskets in the laundry room, an old detergent like bucket or something like that. The abusers often are not the ones that are doing the manual labor. They're often not the ones doing the laundry. That said, you know, be careful because you never know, like if there's one day when they decide to. So as always, you're going to want to think that one through. But I've had a lot of success hiding things in the laundry room. So, okay, let's see. Yeah, so I don't know. This obviously isn't all of the things that one could do to get out of the abuse dynamic, but I just sort of wanted to give some like examples, some things that I'd done. Um, oh, great idea. Laundry bottles. I can put in a place tougher to reach. Yeah. And I mean, you can literally drop it in an active thing, like you have it in a Ziploc bag and you've got it wrapped right. But I mean, that's use your wisdom on that one. I know some people like you can get them off Amazon where you buy like cans that they look like cans, but really you can put money in them. Um, or you can like carve out a book, or I don't know about that. That's giving Shawshank Redemption, but like maybe the inside of a candle. How many abusers are using the candles? I don't know. But again, it's always you never know if someone will come across it. And then you don't want to have to explain yourself. So I'm a big fan of the secret bank account at a different place. So if you can cut an expense, you can cut down the food budget uh, quite a bit. And then you can use, maybe you save $20 with the food pantry, maybe you save $40 with the food pantry, and then you take that money and you squirrel it away. A little bit over time adds up. Um, oh, great idea. Laundry bottles. I can put it in a place tougher to reach. Yeah. Yep. Tape it on the underside of a shelf. Stuff like that works too. But you got to remember where you put it. Sometimes when people give furniture away, they forgot that they like hid money somewhere. So, um, but yeah, like the bottom of a shelf, or like if you have a drawer, the back side of the drawer can be a good place. Or like if it's in a dresser, like the side of the wall between the drawer and the wall or the back. Again, just remember where you put the things. So if you can cut expenses that the abuser doesn't realize that you cut, you can take that money and you can reallocate it to your you fund, your take care of the kids fund, your getting it out fund. Um, but the biggest thing that a victim of abuse can do is honestly get connected with people. Be putting yourself out there, work on those soft skills. Everyone's trying to, apply for jobs, and the AI is reviewing all the resumes, and now we're trying to like trick the AI. Whereas if you know a person who knows a person who recommends you, someone who's enthusiastic, have decoy spots too, like a few bucks or extra spots. Okay. Okay. Love that. Um, yeah. So I mean, you know your own house best. I just Yeah. I find that most abusers are not the ones who do the cleaning. So you can get a lot of mileage out of hiding things in the cleaning spots. Um, or like if you have a random extra basketball, baseball, or something like that, you can like the rubber, like a rubber ball, um, where you can cut like a little slice and then you can slide things into the ball. So you have, baby, sweetie, for the love of Jesus, please. You can put it, um, you can like slide it into the ball. But again, as with everything, then you have to make sure no one tries to use the ball or like takes the ball. So you got to figure out your own situation best. What works best for the person that you're dealing with. Um, maybe in the pet food. Well, maybe not that. So anyway, yeah, connecting with people, connecting with resources. We made friends. There's this like kids museum in our city, and we made friends with everybody. I mean, we were there so often. I probably owe those people rent, and so we were literally there every day, and I learned everybody's names. And the security guard would like had these like little toys that she would like let my son take the little bucket, and he would go over and play with them. And we would bring them in like little special desserts or something like that every once in a while, just to like build the relationships. And when we were looking at moving to another city to kind of escape the situation, they threw us like a little surprise going away thing where they got us a membership at the kids museum in the new city, and like a little card from everybody, and like support. So it's eh, people want like they want like, okay, this is the answer. This is how you get out of abuse. And it's going to be so specific to your situation. Um, so it's like, okay, if you don't have transportation, can you get a bike? Can you get a car through a nonprofit? Can you ride a bus? Can you do like all of the homeless people in my area do, where they rent the little scooters? So they rent the scooters, or I don't know what that means. Oh, I see. Um, so like they do the scooters. You might be able to ride share with somebody, but that requires like, meeting somebody and building a relationship, etc. So I had tried at one point, and this was not successful, I should add. And this is back in the days of Craigslist, where I was like, okay, I need like I need to be able to have childcare so I can do the thing. And so I found somebody online, or I made a post online, um, seeing if I could find another parent that we could like trade off childcare. And that did not work. But making relationships with people as we were out doing activities, I was able to find someone where we did actually end up doing that. Heading out now, but thanks for the advice. Applying to a couple of local autism related reimbursements. Oh, good. Love asking, what could I do? What could I get to get around my own mentality shooting me in the foot? LOL. It's just, I think when you're in the abuse dynamic, your world gets shrunk down, and it's hard to see outside of your current situation. And also, you're probably tired. So it's a lot of things that are layered on top. But every step forward is a step worth taking. And sorry, this was longer than I was planning on. You guys have a great weekend. And I'll talk to you next time.